Hello, everybody, and welcome to FitPro WEBCAST. Today, my name's Jane Waller, and I'm with the lovely Joanna Hall, who I will introduce you to. But what I wanted to sort of recap on here is that Joanna used to write regularly for our magazines and journals. Joanna has presented at Pro Edge convention, which many of you will remember if you've been around as long as us. And then our lives just took us in different ways. And I was very excited that a year ago, Joanna and myself reconnected. So we had this lovely coffee in Kensington Gardens in the sunshine, as you do. And it was just so fabulous to just catch up on each other's lives, updated her on FitPro, what we're doing. And Joanna told me about what she's been working on since I had seen her last. And it's very much in the walking space. Now, being a sort of regular walker myself, of course, this created a lot of conversation. And what I realized is that Joanna, as Joanna does, takes things to the next level and does them very, very well. So I wanted Joanna to join us, to share her insight with us and to be able to maybe get rid of some myths, but also to give us some fantastic information that's not only great for us, but also for the people that we work with. So first of all, welcome, Joanna, and so good to have you back in the FitPro community.
Thank you so much, and thank you for such a lovely, warm introduction. Yes, I have to echo what you're saying. Reconnecting has just been lovely. And if I can just share a little, my lasting memory of you, Jane, was that you were just always and still this beautiful blonde goddess. And you used to wear the shortest little hot pants, and you had the most gorgeous long legs. And you're still the same, and that's just really joyful moments of our sort of fitness education careers and the early stages of our respective lives.
It certainly was a lot of fun, and great that we're both doing what we're doing and loving what we do. So very cool. So Joanna, I'm going to hand it back to you because I'd like you to explain to everybody how you got to be where you are. You have an amazing company, an amazing app, WalkActive. But it's been a while getting there. I know initially when we first met, you had done a master's in sports science at Loughborough University, but you're a long way on from there. So can you just take a moment and bring us up to speed?
Oh, thank you, Jane. Yes, so just go way back. I've always been very interested in lifestyle exercise and physical activity, and how research can be taken and actually made accessible for individuals. And to me, making it accessible means to be achievable and sustainable, to fit in with your life. So that has meant that walking has been kind of an undercurrent all the way through my professional career. So I did my master's in sports science at Loughborough. I did a sports medicine internship in the US. And through my sort of career of teaching different educational programs, which obviously you and I are familiar with, when I was actually pregnant with our daughter, who's now 18, this was really the momentum that got behind my focus on walking. I had deep abdominal surgery when I was 11 weeks pregnant with her, and we had to sign a form to say that we could lose our baby. Anyway, cut a long story short, I come out of the operating theatre and the surgeon says to my husband and to myself, the operation didn't go very well. You are going to have quite a lot of serious recovery, and hopefully our baby was going to grow. My belly was going to grow like this, but I had deep scar tissue here. So from my background as a sports scientist and fitness educator, it was very much like a worry, to be quite frank with you, Jane. How was I going to make my body be strong? How was I going to be strong for myself physically, but also for the change that was going on in my own body? So I used my skills as a fitness professional to cure myself, or try to make myself heal, to walk better. And I used obviously walking as my medium. So I was very focused on my posture alignment, my muscle recruitment, taking all my skill sets up until that date. And that really was how WalkActive was born, as a system of connecting with myself so that I use the right muscles in the right way at the right time in the right sequence, so that I improved my posture. I actually invested in my cardiovascular fitness at a time of great change, physically because of obviously being pregnant, but also emotionally. And I think that's what's quite interesting now with the research with walking, and also cognitively in terms of, your brain health and getting yourself around these situations. So WalkActive came really from a very, very personal space. I then started to teach it to clients. We had a baby girl, by the way, who is now 18.
Okay, good, yeah.
So that's sort of happening in the background as it does within our industry. And so I started teaching to clients and they're like, wow, this is really good. Can you give us more? So the whole thing kind of grew organically. Lots of people wanting it. I started to teach it online. And then because of the anecdotal success stories we were getting from the WalkActive program in terms of changes in people's blood pressure, actually emotional responses, physical fitness responses, we then wanted to give a bit of scientific efficacy for it. So I worked with Professor Darren James at Southbank Sports Performance Laboratory, and his research was actually looking at the validity of the WalkActive technique and the WalkActive system, and actually, is it as effective as all the anecdotal stories and success stories that we were sharing and experiencing with our clients. So his 4-week study showed that the actual WalkActive system scientifically significantly reduces strain at the knee and at the ankle. It significantly improves your posture, and it also significantly helps you walk up to 24% faster, more than normal walking. So we had our experimental group and we had our control group, and they were matched in terms of walking level and walking intensity. So it wasn't like we had an experimental group doing WalkActive and then our control group were completely sedentary. I think that's an important point to make. So and it went through ethical review. So we're really, really proud of that, and it really gave substance as opposed to just people saying, wow, this is really effective. So leading on from that, the program's evolved. We teach it a number of ways. We have a certification program so trainers can actually teach the WalkActive system in their community. And essentially, it is about people walking better so that you use the right muscles in the right way at the right time, as opposed to putting one foot in front of the other, which is suboptimal to actually get the results that we can for our health and for our fitness and for our mental well-being.
Okay, and I mean, it's an amazing system. I have to say, after our conversation, I actually did download the app, and I am using it, and I love it. So, but I mean, not to move away from WalkActive, but just to speak walking generally, because I mean, obviously, our community as professionals working with clients, walking is such a huge space, and you have so much knowledge that you'll be able to share with us. But there are some pieces which I think are sort of general to all. And one of the first questions I want to ask is that the one thing that we all relate to, the one thing that we all know is the benchmark of 10,000 steps a day. And that has been the benchmark for a long time, but there has also been a lot of research in that space for some time that has brought new information to light. So do you have a comment on that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is the walking research is a really, really exciting space. I think for several reasons. One, walking is the simplest, easiest, most accessible form of exercise for the vast majority of our audience. I think it's the most globally accessible, and I think it's the most culturally inclusive. And in today's society, when we're dealing a lot with diversity, I think that's a really, really important point to make to challenge the way that we think about walking. In terms of the research, to answer your question specifically, the 10,000 steps a day message is like the kind of banner that everybody holds their coat on, because that was a very sexy message. In the UK, it came out of the All-Party Parliamentary Select Committee report. I think it was back in 2004. I was actually involved in going to the House of Commons and giving some talks and input into that. And that 10,000 steps a day message was just something really easy for people to grab hold of. However, it really wasn't very robust science. And in actual fact, there's a little bit of myth about where it actually came from. There's an amazing researcher called Tudor Locke, and she's a Canadian researcher, and she's really into step counting and step index, and she's done some really amazing pivotal work. So she created the step index, but also there was work with all the pedometer companies, and that kind of helped fuel that message. So this is why it's such a strong message, and why we had pedometers coming out of cereal boxes, and you buy a Big Mac, etc. It was all like, here's your pedometer. Okay, so since then, that kind of message is getting muddied for two reasons. One, there has been a whole series of studies, and individual studies will often come out and say, actually, if you do this number of steps, you get this benefit. If you do this number, you get this benefit. So that becomes quite noisy and confusing on an individual basis. On the other side of things, I think the best way to look at it is in terms of meta-analysis. And your meta-analysis is where you actually, people actually take a whole collection of the studies and really drill down, where you look across all the studies. So when we're looking at it from a meta-analysis perspective, the weight of available evidence currently is that there seems to be a sweet spot that our daily number of steps should be between 7,000 to 9,000 steps per day. Okay, 7,000 to 9,000 steps a day. I would just caveat that, because my question would be, is what is a step, and what does it look like for you as a fitness professional, and what might a step look like for your participant, for your clients? And this then brings into a really interesting angle, because many people hear the story, oh, walk more. It's a really, it's everybody hears that message. And I actually think people are turned off by that message because people aren't necessarily getting results from it. And I think one of that reasons why that is because professionally, if you're in an industry where you're on your feet all day, or you're doing a bit of a commute to work, in some respects, you can accumulate that number of steps, but the quality of your step isn't necessarily working at the rate of the cadence to incur a physiological response, or a different emotional response, or a different cognitive response. And so the message is giving out there, but the participant is, well, that's not going to work for me, so therefore I have to do more, or I have to train harder. And that creates a big disconnect with an audience where actually, if we did something consistently and we did it well, there are profound benefits to our walking. So I think that is an important opportunity for us as fitness professionals, where we're passionate about making a difference to our clients. And sometimes we don't necessarily need to think about making things harder and more complicated. Actually take what we all do, which is so accessible, but really help our clients do it better. So it's when the message 7,000 to 9,000 can have a lot more context for our participants. But then if you look at the other side of things, you can look at individual studies, just to kind of look at answering the question fully for you. Studies have shown that there is a minimum number of steps that we need to be doing to actually reduce the risk of all-cause mortality. And that appears to be, I think it's something like 3,867 steps, to be precise.
As you would be.
So there's there is a lot of really, really interesting research out there, and there are fantastic professors and organizations who are really looking at that. So I think it's a real space to watch,
it is
an opportunity for us, and I think it can be deeply rewarding as fitness professionals to help our clients get meaningful changes, whether it's for their fundamental health parameters, actually also for their physiological fitness, and also obviously for emotional and cognitive fitness and well-being as well. So it really can tick a lot of boxes.
Yeah, and I mean, that's actually very encouraging to hear that, because I mean, my work is mostly office based, so I do sit a lot, and I do get up and I do walk around, but sometimes I'll go home and I'll check my app, and I haven't hit 5,000 steps in a day, and it really, something like that really concerns me, or has done, until I understood it a lot better, because it's like, we've sort of almost been brainwashed that it had to be 10,000 steps. But as your message is so clear, that it's the quality of those steps that is so important, and that is something that people that are listening today can take away and work with their clients and work on quality and not quantity, which I think is really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. So just to kind of drill down this idea of an individual's perception of what a walk is and a step. So first of all, we live very much in a digital world. So I totally resonate with what you're saying, that I can be at my desk all day and it's like, and we love what we do and we're kind of drawn into it, but suddenly you look like, hardly, but yet we're talking physical activity, we're talking sometimes. Oh, well, I must be doing it. But in actual fact, we've been kind of doing online coaching in that sense. So I think that's an important point. The other point I'd make is that I have a dog. So I do my own training with walking with WalkActive. But when I walk my dog, and I love my dog very much, he's a border terrier, but he does more sniffing and doing more. So I share this with you because I will go on a dog walk. And again, this comes back to maybe our participants' perceptions or even our own.
Yeah.
I walk every day, but I'm not getting. But actually, my dog walk is a bit like walk a bit. He does what he does. That is not giving me any.
No.
I might listen to the bird song. It might help my mental awareness a bit, but you know, it's the reality of what is really going to make a difference. And again, I think it makes that disconnect. So I totally resonate that. It creates an opportunity for us to fundamentally challenge the way that we think about walking and to fundamentally get excited about what it can actually really do for us when we look at it just as maybe in a way that we might think about playing tennis at the weekend. And you might say, okay, let's go play tennis. And I will think, oh my God, my serve's a bit rusty. I better go and have a little bit of a practice. And I might even have a coaching lesson with somebody because it's like, my serve is really going to let the whole thing down. So we appreciate there's motor skills involved in that, or playing golf, or actually, you know, improving our swim stroke, or actually lifting, you know, and how we do a barbell press, you know, all that sort of stuff. We appreciate there's motor skills involved that we can learn, we can apply, and we will improve our performance. But also equally, we will improve our enjoyment, and the enjoyment's important for consistency. But when we come to walking, we don't kind of think about it in that sense because we just
do it the minute we get up.
And lifestyle is doing this to us, as we know. With I'm standing, you may be standing, but lifestyle is doing this. Stress does this to us, and muscular imbalance do this to us. So whilst we still walk from point A to point B, the muscle recruitment pattern will be suboptimal to actually get the best benefits from that particular movement pattern. So I think it can be a really stimulating environment, and it can be deeply rewarding for our participants because it's something that they're already doing, but you're giving them something that's, wow, this is now me, and I can build consistency out.
And something that you were talking about, and I'd like you to expand on it, if we can do that succinctly, because I imagine it's like a 3-hour lecture to you, because there's so much to put in, is what I mean, is the whole cognitive, physical well-being benefits that you get from walking effectively.
Okay, so what I would say is I think there's different ways of looking at this. So there are what I would call like 3 benefits. Obviously, you've got the physical benefit, the emotional, mental well-being benefit, and the cognitive, the brain fitness side of it. And I think you can look at this in terms of the present moment activity of doing something, and then the long-term benefits of doing something. So if we talk about the physical benefits, when you are looking to improve your physical fitness through walking, you need to be thinking obviously about the quantity of steps that you do, but actually it's the cadence and step rate. Okay, now research has shown that there is a step rate that we need to be walking a minimum of to actually get us into those physiological health benefits, and that step rate seems to be 100 steps per minute. And the range seems to be about 130, okay, 130. Anything more than that, it appears that the impact forces through the joints seem to get high. So that's like a sweet spot. If you're looking to improve your physical fitness, that's the rate that you need to be walking at. And you're obviously going to be strengthening your lungs, actually strengthening the heart tissue, all the actual, enzymes, mitochondria aspects when you work at those particular aspects. And those go longer term. In terms of your mental well-being, and your emotional state and managing stress, when we walk, ideally it's beneficial to get out in nature, and that tends to give you several benefits in that obviously we're in green environments, you have what's called your optic flow. So when you are walking through your environment, your brain will be looking at the path ahead of you, but you'll also have your peripheral vision as your environment goes past, okay? Now that means that the brain is actually stimulated by being able to look forward, but also it gets all these little sort of side messages. And the brain really likes that kind of like, oh, I'm focused here, and oh, I'm getting all this kind of side action. So it's got like an active mode and a default mode. So that kind of multiple stimulus is a really great kind of like, for the brain, okay, to do it, all right? The other issue is that when you walk, the liver, in terms of Chinese medicine, the reception points for the liver are actually in the ball of the foot. So when you're walking, the ball of the foot comes down in contact with the ground. Your liver channel, which is very important for detoxification and actually channeling through your body, is stimulated the whole time. So movement and how that then creates the qi through your body from a Chinese medicine perspective really is very powerful. The consistent bipedal movement, okay? And then obviously when you're out in nature, when you listen to the bird song, science has shown that you listen and you have an auditory stimulus, again, that's very calming on the brain, okay? Now, in terms of creativity and cognitive fitness, studies have shown that you can actually walk at a slower cadence, and that seems to be better for your brain, to actually help problem solve, to help you be creative. You're trying to think about something rather than walking at a higher cadence. So there's just really, really interesting benefits, much wider than maybe you might just traditionally think about our walk.
Absolutely. Interesting that you're talking about cadence there, because you were saying like 100 steps per minute, 130 steps per minute. And I, as a, Group X history, went straight to beats per minute. And it made me think of like when we met at Kensington Gardens and we were talking about what you were doing, and we were watching people go past and they were walking, and we started talking about how they were walking, and you were analysing their walk and saying how they were doing this wrong, that right, which was completely fascinating, and I loved it. And I said to you, I remember us having a conversation about cadence, and I said that I had been downloading my group Fit releases and using them because it's just a constant beat. I was finding that very, very methodical, and it just kept me on this beautiful beat. And when I first started walking, I think I started on 130 beats per minute. And then I was like, oh, I can go faster than this. So then I downloaded a release that was 132, and then 135, and then 138, and then 140. So I was then like pumping it out at 140, thinking I was killing it because I was going so fast. And I remember your face just almost went white. It's like, Jane, you need to slow down. This is ineffective. And I would just like to explore that. Like what were I was obviously not setting myself up for success, but I mean, I was walking fast, and I was mostly passing people, that's true, but I didn't always pass people. So, what is too fast? Obviously that. And what are the consequences of that? I mean, is it likely to lead to injury? Is it just ineffective? Does it affect technique? I mean, I imagine all of the above.
Yeah. Okay, so great question. So what I would say, first of all, is many people, when they're approaching walking for fitness, and actually I would like to improve my walking speed, many people approach it, with all respect, looking at it as one variable, and that is how quickly the legs move. And in actual fact, the cadence, how quickly your legs move, is actually just one variable that we have to impact our walking pace and to have an impact significantly on our cardiovascular fitness. So my approach, as the creator and founder of WalkActive, is that we actually look at it as what I call the WalkActive formula. So there's 3 elements. Number 1 is your technique. Number 2 is your stride, and then number 3 is your cadence, and you look at it in that order. So when you actually walk better and you actually improve your walking technique, what will happen is that you need to think about your posterior chain, so that essentially all your muscles are working together to propel you forward. So it's a bit like, coming back to my tennis analogy, when you see Roger Federer serve, you can see there's effort there, but it doesn't look like he's really fighting. It's all smooth. Everything's just flowing together. Excuse me. So when you learn WalkActive and when you walk with good technique, what should happen is that you're using all of your muscles in the right way, at the right time, in the right sequence. So it gives that smoothness. It will actually improve your speed. You'll walk fast. And that's what our research has shown through the WalkActive technique. The second thing is, once you've got your technique better, then your stride length will change. But your stride length is a consequence of your technique. And I use my words there really carefully, because what you don't want to happen is, is overstride from the front. Your stride should change because of actually how you utilize the posterior chain, and you get a longer stride from the back before the leg comes forward. And that means it will reduce the strain on your knees and on your hips and on the ankle. And many people, if they're wanting to, for example, if they've been a runner and they've stopped running because they've got knee problems, or maybe you've got clients who are actually going through the menopause and they're concerned about their joint health, they will be looking to walk. So you want to encourage them to walk better. So yes, they get results, but also they can carry on doing it because it actually just feels really good for the body. So the stride is the second aspect. Then once you've got your technique and you've got your stride length better, then think about speeding up your legs. If you just go for speeding up your legs, what will happen is legs will go faster. The impact will be here, more pressure on the knee. They'll be sitting in the hips and more focus on the hip flexor, which will aggravate the back alignment.
Yeah.
So it's not about, oh, that means I'm going to walk slowly. It's actually about walking smart and think of that in 3. Technique, stride length, then add the cadence, rather than I'm just going to go fast, 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 fast. And then you really work through expansion of the body. And it's like when it all comes together, it's like you are levitating across the ground. And I know I sound like, oh my God, she's just spouting on about it. But it's like when it really comes together, it's like you are levitating. And it's such a euphoric thing to see with clients, because we've had runners who are like, oh no, I'm never going to get that runner's buzz. And they're like, I'll so get that buzz, and your body just feels really great. And I think that's very powerful at a time when we're looking at opportunities for us as within the industry, the whole concept of longevity and aging, and the perceptions of ourselves in our physical capacity, and also our own professional skill set as maybe we might be getting a little bit older. I think it's really exciting about how we can do something that really encourages us to have symmetry in the body, but also, gives us great benefits here and here. And it's a little bit good for this as well.
Well, actually, that was going to be my next question, as in physically, what do most people, when they're walking and they're walking correctly, what physical changes do people mostly notice?
So if you're looking from, let's talk like a superficial cosmetic perspective. When people walk better, they'll actually get change. They'll end up utilizing much more of the hip extensors. So they may well find that there's a shift around the thighs, around all that, in terms of shape, around that sense. Also, when people walk with correct technique, what should happen is that the spine starts to have a natural rotation. Okay. When you have a correct rotation and you're walking, so yes, you're going to have more hip extension, so your hamstrings, your glutes are going to actually, propel you forward for more propulsion and energy expenditure. But also when the body is flowing, you're going to get more thoracic rotation. So as we know, if you're a gym instructor and you want someone to actually turn their abdominals, we get them down the floor, opposite hand to opposite knee, the classic. But when you've got really good walking technique and you've got stabilization through the hips, this area is stable and the thoracic spine should open up. So you get mobility in the spine, super good for back health, but also actually the whole of your abdominal floor area, rectus, transverse, internal, external, starts to work effectively. And I think one of the powerful things about WalkActive, and when you look at this, is I think you can really transform your body with the sessions. But I truly believe what's unique and powerful for our clients is it gives them a skill set of connecting positively with your body, which you can apply to your daily life. So you transform your body, but importantly, you can transfer this into the way that you sit, into the way you might actually get up from your chair and walk down the aisles when you're in the supermarket. Now, this may sound a little bit like, well, that's a bit obvious, but actually, in today's society, as you and I have said, when we spend a lot of time seated, we need to support our clients and support ourselves, so that actually the spaces between our designated exercise workouts become more meaningful for us on these levels. And rather than trying also to put so much pressure on ourselves, and again, this is what I think kind of sometimes creates what I call a template of failure, because not everybody is a natural exerciser. So for people to actually get the motivation to go to the gym or to have the session with the trainer, for some people that can be quite hard. And then we expect so much from that hour or that 45 minutes or that 30 minutes. And then between, we are sitting down. So we put so much pressure on those 30 minutes and 60 minutes to get results. In actual fact, we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure. So it's how we navigate in between, I think, is really powerful. So that way,
agree.
Yeah, emotionally, it just changes, as I said, about the optic flows. It makes you feel more open and can actually make you feel more calm and relaxed. But I also think there's a big thing about physical confidence. And we have consistently seen this with our clients about how they feel WalkActive gives them physical confidence. We've had a lot of men who've actually had confidence to start dating again, which I know may sound like a really obtuse benefit, but you're talking about things that actually improve the quality of an individual's life because they feel confident. And especially when we're thinking about, the whole menopause category, perimenopause, going through changes, shifts in society, where we can actually feel that we are not good enough. And what walking does is, it really, when you get your technique right, it gives you a positive connection with the way that we should walk and move, as opposed to the way that we have learned to move, whether that is because of our professional life, our personal life, our physical life. For whatever reason, we have this kind of ball of wool which plays on actually how we may present ourselves physically. And I do think that has an impact on how we are then perceived. And it doesn't mean that we go around like, chest stuck out, so big, etc. But it's actually feeling confident with our bodies at a time when we can be going through change for a number of reasons. And I do think that is very powerful. And we consistently see that. And then obviously joint care, with people feeling, I've been a regular walker, but I've always finished my walk and I have lower back pain, or walking, but my knees are giving me some jip. And when you learn the WalkActive technique, or you improve your technique, you really get the changes in that. So therefore, people will walk more, they get more joy, and they walk fitter, they walk further, they walk faster, or they just walk more as a foundation of our lives right through. So,
well, I mean, just thank you for all of this information. I mean, there's a lot there for people in our community to take this information away and to be able to influence change, amongst their own clients. Obviously, if they want to know more about what you're doing, we'll put all of that information up there so that they can connect with you and find out all about what you're doing. But before we finish off, is there something else? Is there something I haven't asked that I should have asked? Is there anything that you feel that you need to add that's going to reasons?
No, I think it's just a really interesting area. And I think within having been in the industry for over 30 years, we're in the industry because we're passionate and we care and we want to help our participants. And I think if we look at how we can challenge this whole perception of what walking is about and think of it as a foundation, it can be a kind of a walking system. It can be a complete system in its own right, but it can also complement. And when you actually get somebody joining the dots on their movement quality through their day-to-day life, it will actually make them stronger and better in the other things that they might want to do. So that gives so much scope. So I think there's a really interesting dialogue there as professionals. And I really would say, let's keep watching this space, because, walking is new sexy, and the fact that it's globally accessible and culturally inclusive, I think that's a really, really positive and exciting area for all of us. Where we're going with.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
no, I completely agree. And so, thank you for sharing, your experiences. And it's taken you know, many years of work that you've done, and to share some of that with you. But wishing you every success, because it is exciting, and you know, I'm absolutely delighted to see what you're doing and influencing so many people so positively, as I knew you always would. So fantastic, thank you. Hopefully you can talk to us again another time. We can, you know, maybe take it a step further. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, so thank you. Take care.
Jane, thank you so much. Good luck to everybody, and thank you so much. It's been my real joy and so great to reconnect. And yes, love to do all. So tick, tick, tick. And I'm going to go.
All right.
Thank you.
See you. Bye. Bye.